content?
Oh, where
I
I
can
draw
draw
inspiration for. I don't know if there's like one particular source that I draw things from. I think in everyday life, like I could go to a coffee shop or a restaurant and the waiter would be so inspiring that like I would take a thing from that. Obviously my parents I look to a lot, my brothers, in different moments and elements of their life I'll draw inspiration from. I'll watch a TV show and there'll be like a minor character and just like something that like hits or resonates with me. I'll go through all these YouTube black holes with like people that I don't even know, and there'll be something that sticks with me. So I don't think there's one, I don't really idolize any particular person.
Like a director or someone that you've worked with.
Again, I don't think there's a singular person, right? I take inspiration from everyone and everything, and I think there's one of my first big roles. I played many monks, but I played a Tibetan monk in particular, and I had this little red string around my neck for like a decade, and it's a simple red string with a knot in it. And when it was for the role, and I was talking to the Tibetan translator, and he told me the meaning of this red string. He's like, when monks go into the temple and they kind of dedicate their life to this path, one of the things that they make a promise to is to always be a student. And it doesn't matter who you're talking to, it could be a child, but like you have to be open to the fact that like this child could be your next teacher, right? So you have an open heart and an open mind to lessons from everywhere. And this little knot is a reminder of that promise that you make. And it's something that really stuck with me to this day. So like I will try to draw inspiration from the obvious sources, of course, but also anybody, yourself included.
And Lauren, you as an actress?
I like that. Because it's true, you kind of draw inspiration from life, and I don't really have one person either, but I think that, just seeing a lot of different films and plays is really important, and that's for all of us to just support the arts, because you can always just draw inspiration from a performance that just moves you so deeply, and especially during the strike, it's really important that we keep supporting projects. But I feel like, for me, I'm always a little bit more kind of like just working off the moment in the present and sort of a little bit fly by night. So I'm always inspired by people who really delve into the minute details of her character, like Daniel Day-Lewis and Jeremy Strong in Concession. I mean, when I watch those performances, I go, wow, you know what? I can actually see the layers. So there's definitely a benefit to doing that. I just never had. I'm so lazy. And so when I think about performances like that or actors, it makes me try a little harder. Like let's like see if we can preload some of this history the way in which they do. I mean, I could never just stay in character 24/7 the way that Daniel Day-Lewis or Jeremy Strong does, because it just would feel too awkward for me. Like that, I think, is holding on to something too much. But I can certainly think about like what was this character's childhood like, and that kind of thing, which is not how I'm used to working. So I feel like it's good to just be influenced by other people's techniques and styles.
That's so funny, Lauren, that you mentioned that, because I also, having met some of these wonderful actors, I'm like, I'm a lazy actor. and it's not, like, I know there are things that I could and should be doing to get myself to the point where I would be like, okay, that was pretty good, right? But I also don't gravitate towards it in the same way that, like, on the producing side, I will find, like, if I'm trying to get to, person A, I'll be like, ooh, interesting. How do I get there? And I'll spend hours figuring out, like, oh, I can get to person A by going through person B, who I know through person C and D, and who's kind of connected to person E. And then, I will do that. And then my friends will be like, what did you just do? How did you get that person to talk to you? I'm like, cold emails, right? And there's something really exciting about that I've learned that I do that seems like I'm not lazy in the producing sense, but it's just because it's exciting.
The opposite of lazy. You're like my AP student.
But I'm saying is like there are things that suggest to me that maybe I don't love acting as much as I thought I did, right? So which is why like the producing side has really pulled me in ways that acting never did, because I fell into acting and I just assumed it was the thing that I was doing, and I must have loved it, and I do, right? But it was something that I kind of like learned to appreciate and love. But when I meet those actors, I'm like, oh, I don't love it as much as they do, right? And
You're brilliant though see, I always tell my kids that everything in life is about relationship. And so it's what you're talking about, where if you have a relationship with someone, and even a good relationship with yourself too, the way that you talk to yourself, but you know, what you're talking about is having these relationships where you can actually feel comfortable enough to ask, hey, person A, could you talk to person B? But you can't do that if you don't have that relationship. So a lot of times people in Hollywood will like network and try to get ahead for themselves. And I always felt like it was a good advice to say, you can't just keep asking for things and not having a real relationship with a person. So like have a genuine friendship with someone, and that you're having interactions where you're not asking for something, because everyone's always doing that, and just from the other side of it, it can be really kind of off-putting because it makes you feel uncomfortable.
But the game is, and this is why I enjoy producing, because recognizing that, I'm like, oh, now I have to know what to ask for, who to ask it from, and like what I can offer in return.
There you go. And also, if it's an easy thing to do, people are so happy to help.
And I would say like 95% of people and things that I ask for, even as crazy as it sounds, like they're just as excited about me asking as I am to ask, right? And then it's a good fit. And if they are not, then it's not a good fit. Like, oh, I'll have to rejigger my calculations in terms of what I thought I was offering. And again, I don't do any of that for the acting side, which suggests to me that I'm a lazy actor.
No, that's marketing. You know, because the other thing too is like I was raised Catholic, and then, you know, you're supposed to just be as humble as possible is the goal. And in Hollywood, geez, you know, if you do that, you're just gonna, you know, fade away. And people, you know, you have to be able to have some ability to promote yourself, and it's just always so icky.
I feel like that's probably not just a Catholic thing. I think that's like, feels like an Asian thing, feels like a minority thing, probably a woman thing.
Everything.
Right? I think like being confident is a skill set that, you know, it took me a long time to learn. But part of it was like understanding the value that I brought forward. And for a long time, that value was zero in my mind. I'm like, I don't know what I could do for anybody, let alone myself. Right? And you know, you walk around with imposter syndrome and just showing up at these auditions hoping for a job. And it took me more than 20 years to get to the point where I'm like, now I can, I mean, we don't walk into auditions anymore, but now I would go into an audition knowing the value that I bring. If they hired me, I bring a certain level of professionalism. I will make their set run smoother, faster than I know other people might. And so like there's a certain level of confidence that you build, but it comes from understanding my value and, you know, the thousands of hours that I've put into my craft. Despite being a lazy actor, I know I can get a certain caliber.
Yeah, if you're coming from just wanting to be of service, like how can I help your project? People really like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.